Hello, and welcome back to Sharing a Chapter a Day. This is Do, Ra, me, and today I will be reading Chapter 113 of Engagement in Peril by Dara, Odoe, Sok. Chapter 113 is titled Graduates Night Out. During the last week of school, a couple of my classmates decided to take me to Tijuana, Mexico, of which was just about 20 minutes away from our base in San Diego by car. It was to celebrate our graduation of sorts. "We're gonna get you laid, Sock," they bluntly stated and aloud throughout the open bay corridor. "But I don't drink, motherfucker, and we might get in some deep shit with our advisor if they find out." I had told them that, but they forcefully took me there anyway. The one who took me to Tijuana that night was Hassan and Potter. Hassan didn't care anymore about his life, and he was drinking his life into the grave. It was like he was putting the bottle of his to his head and pulling the trigger unintentionally. He was drowning out his depression because of his sudden breakup with his girlfriend. With the two gripping me in their hands and arms, they forcibly threw me in the old black Toyota pickup truck, and headed toward the United States-Mexico border. We got to Tijuana around 2000 hours that evening, and we decided to check out the strip joint first. We were all wanted to see some fine ass first, of course. Maybe get a few blowjobs in the process. I asked Misha about his base restriction and showed some concern about his mental state, but he didn't care. He didn't want to hear any of that from me. Not then, and definitely not now. We finally decided on one of the rundown joint and went in. There were no cover choice to enter the strip joint of sorts, and we entered the dimly lit establishment, and they expected us to drink. That was no problem for Misha and Potter. They can outdrink most drunks I know. My fellow classmate ordered a bucket of Tecantes, Mexican beer, and since I didn't drink, I just sat there watching the nude dancer and her audience of poor, ugly, degenerate felons who were there for a brief thrill of sorts. It was my first time in an actual bar, and it was pretty nasty. The not so attractive older dancer allowed herself to be touched and poked at. A guy was putting his fingers and fists up inside her vaginal area, poking and molesting her while giving her pocket change as payment. What the fuck? That shit was sick. As I thought aloud to myself, I felt sick at that sight, and Hassan and Potter jokingly passed me a bill and some change and egged me to do the same to that poor woman, but I refused any participation in that hideous act. I was up for some fun and a good time and getting my balls sucked and all, but not like this. I wasn't ready to demean someone like that. After a while, we got tired watching the nude pole dancer, and after several buckets of beers for my sailor companion, we left and went next door to another strip joint. The atmosphere there was about the same as the previous one, with bad lighting, stingy aroma of urine covered the room, and the patrons seemed pretty rugged and menacing. There were drunks and horrible people in there as well, yelling and wanting to fight an American of sort, and they noticed we were all sailors due to our identical haircut and astute demeanors. So we decided to leave after 4 songs or so, and then we finally ended up at a dance club several blocks away from the unpoliced, adulterated cantina. Hassan and Potter were going all out with the liquor that night. They had ordered several bucketful of beers. More cerveza, they would yell and moan to the club employees, and more were brought to them. It was like all you could drink. It was like drink all you want, American putas. Give us your greenbacks and we'll piss in your beer. The price of the alcohol was decent, and they expected you to drink. And drinking those two surely did that night, as I watched in amazement at the time. Always throughout that night, in the back of my mind, Shinshin was a part of me then. I really wondered about him that night. I was there with friends and wondering if he had someone to hang out with, or what was he by himself, training his body and mind to do what he needed to do to get through that hellhole of buds. While drunk and uninhibited, Potter danced with anyone and everyone who would dance with him, comically turning up the dance floor in the best way he knew how, and at times unable to balance himself or prevent his many falls and stagger off the alcohol-drenched floor. Dirtied up dance floor, Hassan too was out of it. Instead of dancing, he would look, point, and yell other patrons saying nonsense and incoherent words that they just ignore. Hassan was trying to get a rise out of people, and he didn't care who. As for myself, who doesn't drink or party, while taking in deep the fresh Mexican night air that night, I sat next to the railing next to the window, staring outside and thought of Shinshin, and several times thought of Beverly. On my mind too, she was the tiny Pinoy girl that I really adored back in high school at Poly, the one who, the one whose pink undies I saw while she sat with her legs open in the class across the room from me. Throughout that night, I talked to Hassan about his future and plans when he gets home. We made small talk, but both of us were lost in our own thoughts. I'm sure Hassan's thoughts were more traumatic than mine were then. He was losing his life once again, and he had to start all over, and it seemed that he was lost mentally, and by the look of him, he was also physically drained. At various intervals throughout the night, the two companion bastards tried getting me to drink, but I refused, and they never pushed me too much. That's a good thing about me not drinking that night because I ended up having to drive the both of them back to our command, although I was unlicensed at the time. While they were in the crowd dance club, we while they're in the crowded dance club, we met some college girls from San Diego State University who were residing in the dorms there. Several of them came with their boyfriends and classmates or whatnot. I thought they were cool at first, but then they turned out to be whores and bitches. They reminded me of Delilah, who had done so much wrong to Shinshin. The college girls tried to get Hassan to buy them all drinks and such, requesting shots after shots and making him pay for it. After a while, they got pretty drunk and got out of hand and almost got into several fights with fellow sailors and marine there. He screamed and cursed at the college girl, which scared and shocked them somewhat. Luckily, Potter and I was able to calm him down, and I sat with him at the table close to the balcony and talked to him about various things, just to keep his mind occupied, away from those nonsense aid-infested hoes. I reminded Hassan of Shinshin, and we both wondered how he was doing and were hoping the best for our good friends that night. While we were all lost in our individual thoughts, after getting drunk out of his mind, Hassan and Potter finally agreed to leave, and we left around 0200 hour the next morning, and I had the burden of being the designated driver. It was a learning experience for me then. The strip joint was the worst place I had ever been to, and I didn't like the dance club scene either, because it's not what I usually do. It just wasn't my cup of tea, you see. And no, I didn't get my nuts off that night. I didn't get my balls sucked or anything. I was just relieved that I was leaving, safe and sound of sorts. While walking back to our vehicle at the border, I looked and surveyed the people and the landscape of Tijuana and felt sorry for the people who live in there. It's a hard and harsh life living in the slum and hardship. Children up late working to help support their family of sorts, selling chiclets and flowers to visitors, tourists and passerby. Teen prostitutes ran about, allowing themselves to be molested for pennies at a time. I got pretty scared of the situation. You hear stories about people coming back without a kidney or two missing, and fortunately, my fellow classmate and I got back to base safely that morning. I had to drive the truck because everyone else was drunk, and it was my first time driving a stick shift vehicle. I did a pretty good job driving the truck, jerking the truck back and forth every now and then as we drove quietly back to base on the highways and byways of San Diego, as Misha directed me on how to go about controlling and maintaining his old, beat-up vehicle then. Thank you for listening. This is the end of Chapter 113. Be on the lookout for Chapter 114, titled Students BEQ Incidents. This is Do, Ra, me, and I'll see you later. Thank you.